What's my motherfucking name? What's my motherfucking name?
I'm really shooting for the crown. I'm back on the set to really lay you down. I'm repping the East.
Hello, everybody. We're live. It's the E-Spot with Camille, and you are in for a treat because we have actor R.Keith Harris from The Walking Dead, Dawsons Creek, Sleepy Hollow. He's done it all. And he's from North Carolina, so he's right here local. I cannot wait for you guys to meet him. Go ahead and say hello in 2 seconds. Hold on, make sure they can see you. There he is.
Hey.
Hi, well, I'm sure you can hear us fine. If I can get a couple of smiling faces or something, just so I can see that people can hear us okay.
Check.
Never, ever know. Looks good to me. I'll just make sure everybody over there is saying, I don't see anybody saying no. So perfect. We'll just keep going.
Yeah.
So it's so good to have you here today.
Thank you so much.
Enjoying yourself so far this week.
Yeah, hanging in there. Just trying to get actually getting a lot of yard work done.
Your honey-do list got really long now that
yeah.
knows you're home for a while.
That's right.
That's awesome. So speaking of being from North Carolina, can you tell us a little bit how you got started, how you went from living here in North Carolina and was able to become a big-time actor even on 90210?
Yeah. Well, I knew I wanted to be an actor when I was 9. I remember I was watching TV. I could draw a picture of the still frame I was looking at, but it was an old black and white movie. And it was a picture, it was a close-up of this woman, and she had this, I don't know, this mixture of emotion, like love and betrayal and angst. And it was just this emotional moment in whatever movie this was. And I just remember looking at that screen and going, I want to do that. And it never changed. And so I went on to, this was before the internet.
Wait, when? There was a time without internet?
And so there was no such thing as, online submissions or, and both my parents worked. So, they weren't theater parents by any stretch. So I just did what I could do. I went through high school, did all the productions there, and then went on to undergrad and got my Bachelor of Science in Radio and Television Production and Theater from Western Carolina. Okay. And then worked for a couple of years doing children's theater. And let's see, then moved back.
For a minute. What was it like doing children's theater?
Oh, it was great. I worked with, I did a couple of different things. The first one was Missoula Children's Theater out of Montana. And the setup was, say like me and you were the tour team, we're the two leads in the show, and we go into the town on Monday and cast the rest of the show from kids in the community, which was usually like 50 or 60 kids. And then you do each week a full hour-long musical. And so each week you start off on Monday and you have 4-hour rehearsals every night. And then on Saturday you do 2 shows, a matinee and an evening performance, and then you pack up and go to the next town. I hit every state out west except for Washington and Oregon, and spent 3 months in Canada doing that.
Oh, how fun! Wait,
yeah, it was a really fun time. Before I got that gig, the farthest I don't even think I'd been past the Mississippi. So it was really cool to get out of undergrad and go see the world.
Scary to go see the world. Acting is see the world too.
That's right. And then I moved back and did North Carolina Theater for Young People. That's based out of Greensboro here. And it was actually the last year before UNC-G rolled it into the children's theater curriculum at UNC-G. So that's kind of how I was introduced to UNC-G, where I got my MFA in acting with a concentration in film. And then, went on from there.
Now, what was it like going on your first big audition when it was like a film or TV show, whichever you want to, that you remember? Do you remember being very nervous? Like, how did you calm yourself? Because now you're kind of a seasoned pro. Do you still get nervous or?
Yeah, it comes and goes. It's a lot easier now. Nerves aren't quite as big a deal because everything, at least for the first round or two,
Mhm.
if there is more than one round, is done via online.
Right.
So you shoot it, in your studio space or wherever you have your camera and stuff set up, and then you submit it. So in that sense, I try to keep it to 3 or 4 takes if I can,
Okay.
because that's all you get when you're in the room on a good day. But it used to be back in the day, hey, you got an audition and you hop in the car and drive to Wilmington, 6 hour, you drive down, spend 15 minutes and drive back.
Oh, the
And
good old
then,
Cannons when they were in
oh yeah,
Wilmington.
absolutely.
Oh, those good old days.
So in that regard, nowadays it's, nerves aren't really much of an issue. The
What about
nerves,
callbacks or anything? What was the
yeah.
callback for like The Walking Dead, for example?
I was actually cast from tape on
Wow.
on that. Yeah, I didn't do a callback or anything.
Yeah.
The only thing I've had a callback on since this has all really taken off in the last, gosh, 5 or 6 years was the Robert Redford movie.
Oh, great. Yeah, talk about that because you've worked with some of the most iconic people in film, like Robert Redford.
Yeah,
We were talking off camera about even working with Burt Reynolds on one of
yeah,
his last films. So,
yeah.
what was it like working with some of these icons? Were you ever nervous with them, or did they give you any great advice that you can
I,
share?
I don't know. It's weird. It was kind of I wasn't not at all nervous with them because I think it was one of those things where they're such pros, they put everybody else around them at ease.
Oh, nice.
It felt, and it was also one of those, you kind of have those moments. I'm sitting across the table from Emma Thompson and I'm just kind of going, this is my life today. I don't know.
Not a bad day in the office.
who gets this? This is great.
Like Miss Shakespeare herself, for the
Yeah,
most part.
I know, right?
She did
And
like almost every
she
Shakespeare.
and she is truly an amazing lady. She and my wife and kids were able to be on set that day,
Oh,
and we were on the way back to the set, up to the base camp, um, for lunch, and she just cuddled up right beside my daughter, and just loved on her, and just had this whole conversation going. My daughter was, gosh, she couldn't
what
have
a
been
great
more than 5 at the time, I think, maybe 6 tops, and she just cuddled up right next to her and just loved on her. It was great. It was great.
what a moment.
Yeah.
Now, so talk a little bit about some of those films that you worked on. Was it different to, I mean, just working on The Walking Dead, just seeing some of those scenes, they are brutal. Like you're, not only are you getting chased by zombies, you have to remember to grab your gun, you're shooting, or I shouldn't brought up grabbing a gun because that's when you got, you know, but
Yeah. Yeah, I know, right?
all those different things you have to remember and such, like, I don't even know how to describe it, just difficult situation. I mean, not the prettiest of sets. It's not the glamour that everybody thinks of when it comes to being an actor. It's one of those more, you're
Yeah.
wearing sweaty old clothes and just,
Yeah.
what was
Yeah,
it?
it's the summer, in
Atlanta.
in Sonoy, Georgia, which is, nice and humid, 100 degrees.
Like, at least I'm not the zombie with all that makeup.
Yeah, there's not much glamorous about it.
No, not at all.
But I will say, the whole, I don't know if you haven't seen the scene, when I go out, I won't. It's old hat. It was, several seasons ago now. But when I before I demise, when I get my foot stuck, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Um, the zombies were coming at you, and I will say that they are, they're just as real, this close to your face as they are, watching it on TV. Because
Yeah.
the FX department is that good.
Yeah. So there was did you guys ever use green screens or anything on The Walking Dead, or is it always you're right there on set doing, I'm not on set, but right there on location working?
Yeah, always on location. The only thing that I thought they would use green screen technology on was some of the walkers that you see without certain body parts or limbs or
Right.
things.
Yeah.
But they actually hire amputees to
Oh,
do those parts, which
wow.
I thought was very cool.
That is
Um,
very cool.
yeah, and the only time I actually saw them do green screen stuff was when they go through and like Daryl has a knife and he stabs a zombie in the head, right? So he'll start off the scene with the actual knife,
Right.
and then they'll get to the point of it happening, and he'll go to move, and they freeze, and they run in and take the knife out, put just a hilt in with a little green nub on it, and then he finishes the move, and then they animate that little bit right there.
Oh, that's so neat.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be the hardest acting scene to do is with the green screen when you have to kind of like just two tennis balls. I've seen like some of those. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wait,
Yeah.
what? They did all of that with two
Yeah.
tennis balls that they were
Yeah.
That's impressive. So I was curious if there was any of that with The Walking Dead.
Yeah, no. Not a whole lot.
No. Now, so you worked with Burt Reynolds and on his last film that he did, which was called not Shifting Gears. Oh yeah, Shifting Gears.
No, that was An Innocent Kiss.
Oh, Innocent Kiss. Sorry.
Yeah, it was originally called Elbow Grease, and that has been. It was probably one of his last three that he did. And of course, as indie projects go, they you get fast, cheap, and good, but you only get two of the three. That's right. So, so it came out towards the end of last year. I want to say November, December sometime. So it's just recently come out, and it's on Amazon Prime. It's called An Innocent Kiss now.
Okay.
Yeah.
To make sure I write that in so people can look that up. Innocent Kiss. Now, can you also tell us about, since I already brought it up, Shifting Gears as well, because I noticed some familiar faces in that as well, that are some locals.
Yeah, absolutely. Shifting Gears was sort of there was a good buddy of mine, Rick Kennedy, who actually ran a dirt car for a while, and he's just a good old boy. He actually should have been raised in the 50s. He does custom car interiors for cars. I mean, he's really amazing, and he actually worked at a garage for a while, and he kept kind of a journal of these funny ideas. And he had this loose concept for a screenplay. And so he brought it to me and was like, hey, I think this would be funny. And so he typed up his journal, those journal entries and things. And then I just kind of sorted through them and used several of the moments that actually happened to him at the garage in the screenplay, and actually then kind of moved it around, the centerpiece of this garage. Yeah, so that's kind of how that was born. And I wrote the original draft of that script, gosh, like 2005 or 2006. Yeah. And then we were, about, I think it was around 2010, 2011, I really kind of started going, oh, this was really the most commercial property that I've got right now. And I kind of started focusing on getting, finding funds and trying to, raise the money and, do all the stuff indie filmmakers do. And long story short, ended up partnering in, let's see, the end of 2013, I think, with Jeff Williams over at Alderman Company in High Point.
No, I've worked with them quite a bit. I do a lot of my commercial and print work over there for
Yeah, and we partnered with them, and they built all our interior sets, and we had our production office space based out of there, and we went to town.
Oh,
Yeah.
no. Now, was that
Yeah.
your first time writing and directing a film, or have you done?
I'd done some other writing, and I actually didn't direct it. I produced it. It
Okay.
was a director, Jason Wynn, out of Atlanta, who
Okay.
directed the film. We brought him on to direct it. But I had done a short film called Harvest that I wrote, produced, directed, was in. I mean, it was like, kind of one of these little passion projects. I wanted to try my hand at it, um, and the thing that taught me is that if I ever try to act and direct at the same time, I got to have a producer that's just gonna produce the crap out of it. Because I found myself. I mean, there's a reason why they are individual jobs, right, on a set. And I found myself, being pulled in so many different directions. Every time I watch it, I go, "Oh, if I had the mental capacity, I would have done this differently as an actor, or maybe this differently as a director." Um, so I specifically didn't try to direct Shifting Gears.
Yeah.
But what Shifting Gears taught me was, if I ever do that process again, I would definitely much rather act and direct than act and produce, because at least they're on the same side of the brain.
Right.
Acting and producing are like two different worlds, and so you're going along, and then, oh, I got to jump over here for a second. And yeah, it's crazy when you're in production. There were plenty of days when, at lunch, there was one scene in particular, scene 89. Ugh.
You
It
know the number. It must
Yeah,
be.
absolutely. It just wasn't working.
Oh, okay.
And for whatever reason, as we were trying to get it up on its feet during rehearsal before lunch, it just wasn't working. So I spent, pull the laptop out lunch, and I'm pounding away and rewrote, a 5-page, 6-page scene into like a 3-page scene, like, on the fly. We printed them out, and that's what we ended up doing. Yeah, it's crazy.
Sure, the actors loved that. Like, yay! I'm still the same amount of camera time, though, right?
Yeah.
So I have to ask, because you mentioned Riverrun and that your film was supposed to actually debut there. So are there any plans to stream it, or how else can we watch it?
Well, that's a good question. There's a film called Bygone Billy,
Okay.
that was supposed to be at Riverrun this year. It was by a fantastic writer director, Shay Sizemore, out of Charlotte. Um, I love working with him. And anyway, this film, it's it's I haven't seen it yet. I've only seen like a 45-second trailer of it, because
Wow.
he's kind of. But if it remotely holds up to the script, it's gonna be a really good film. I'm super excited about it. So what Riverrun's gonna do, I'm not 100%
Okay.
sure, because they have talked about, maybe kind of once this whole mess settles down, that they might do maybe a couple of smaller screenings, like a night of their world premieres, or
Um,
something like that. The thing that's interesting, I didn't realize that until this year, but Riverrun is actually an Academy Screener Festival. So if you play as a world premiere, or some sort of in competition, so to speak, you come out of that, and are potentially eligible for Academy consideration. But I haven't heard much of anything about how they will.
never been to Riverrun. Is it in Winston-Salem or Greensboro?
It's in Winston.
Okay, I wanted to make sure before I wrote it out, because I went to an event at the School of the Arts, and they were talking about Riverrun, obviously before all of this happened. I was like, "Ooh,
Right.
I'm gonna go!" And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I was like this year.
Yeah,
But
I think they actually have. I think they actually use some of the screens at the School of the Arts for some of the festival. So they've got the Aperture downtown. They've got some screenings at the school. They've got. I think there's maybe another theater or two involved. They kind of keep areas around downtown, and School of the Arts isn't too far.
Now I have to ask because you brought up earlier about raising money and funds for movies, and the
Yep.
event I was actually at the School of the Arts was part of Seed and Spark, and they were talking about raising money and filmmakers. What was that process like? Like, how did you have you ever done that before, or like? Because I mean, as an actor, like I don't always think with that side, like you mentioned before. I don't really think with the producer brain sometimes. So,
Right.
how did you do that? Like, how did you? Because that's every filmmaker's biggest roadblock is getting the funds to
Yeah.
make the movie.
Yeah. It's twofold kind of now. I mean, I think now the point of entry now to make a really good feature um, for not a lot of money
Mm.
is basically sweat equity has come down so much
Right.
because you've got fantastic cameras that shoot, that are under $1,000 that are shoot 4K 24p with and you just got to get a couple of lenses. So if you can muster together $5,000 or $6,000 and buy the gear, you can, and everybody works for free on it, as your first feature, so to speak, you can crank out something. Um, Again, the thing that you got to remember is you get fast, cheap, and good, but you only get two of the three. So if it's gonna be fast and cheap, it's not gonna be good,
Right.
right?
You
But
get
if
what
you
you pay for, as they say.
right, if you're gonna, if it's gonna be fast and good, it's not gonna be cheap, and if it's gonna be, you know, cheap and good, it's not going to be fast. So those are the things that you have to remember coming at it. Now, the other piece of it that I think a lot of people don't think about is actually I just read an article about this earlier this week. Chain of title,
Mm,
right? If you have a script, take some time, find a lawyer that was going to work with you. Uh, and get the main legal documents in place up front,
okay.
because that's key for uh, distributors later.
Mm,
Because if you get to a point where you're trying to get it distributed but you don't have the documentation, distributors won't touch it.
oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So um,
They don't want to
so
get sued. That makes sense. I get.
yeah. So, because they like, oh, does anybody, have or any reason to sue or whatever? And you go, not to the most, So, if you don't have that documentation in place, then it could, it could backfire on the backside when you're trying to actually sell the movie.
Yeah.
Um, uh, but there's just some base work. You just gotta. The first film I produced was a film called Chicks 101 with a buddy of mine, um, out of Winston,
Just the
and
title alone sounds funny.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was kind of a Hitch-esque kind of,
Okay.
this guy teaching this class of nerds, kind of, how to hook up, but then he
Like, real
realizes that
benefit. That person
hooking up
will
isn't
talk.
all it's cracked up to be, and he
Okay.
falls in love, and
Oh,
um,
that's neat.
but we were kind of like, hey, you see that mountain over there? Yeah, you want to go climb it? Okay. We
What?
didn't have any idea what we were getting into.
Hey,
And
sometimes that's the best way to just jump into it, see what
you
happens.
do, and you learn a lot in that process, and you
Mhm.
have to figure out what a PPM is. That's called a private placement memorandum, and that's the legal document that you have to put together in order to get investors to invest in an LLC that you have set up, and it's all this stuff that you just kind of learn. We didn't know any of that starting off,
Right.
and after we went through that process, it was good. On the next time around, I was able to pull that document out and read it verbatim and then go, okay, this is a good basic framework for the PPM for my next one.
Right. Right.
And so I was able to go through with a digital document and change, the names and the titles and all the contact information and all that stuff out, for the next incarnation of the project, and it does make it a little bit easier.
Oh, that's really neat. Before I forget, because I didn't mention it earlier, but I want to make sure, since you worked as a producer on your own films as well as acted, but I have to mention some of the North Carolina-based films you worked on. What was it like to work on Under the Dome, Shots Fired,
Yeah.
Dawsons Creek, One Tree Hill?
Yeah.
Out. Oh, and Sleepy Hollow, because I had Orlando Jones on.
Yeah.
January.
Yeah. That was all those have been super fun. Under the Dome, that was it's funny. I always kind of joke about Under the Dome. It was it's not gonna go great for you on a series when in the first 30 seconds of episode 1 they're dumping you into a grave. But somehow I ended up with like 4 or 5 episodes on it, so I don't know exactly how I pulled that off.
That TV show was crazy. I loved watching it. It was kind of funny. My daughter and I would watch it together. She's 11 now, so I guess she was about 7 or so then.
Yeah.
And there was times where, like, of course, I had to fast forward because we would pre-record it and watch it together. But it was just such an interesting, like, you didn't know, well, what is happening to the dome? Why did they? And they kind of ended it kind of abruptly. Do you have? Well, I guess I don't know if you were around or if they kind of told you what was it supposed to be? Do you even know?
No, I don't. I mean, on a lot of those shows like that and The Walking Dead, I got, especially on The Walking Dead, on Under the Dome, I got, you get the whole script.
Okay.
On The Walking Dead, I got my pages.
Oh, wow.
That's it. You didn't get to even see the whole script. So if you're not, a series regular on the show, then you're most likely not privy to that kind of information. They'll call you when they need you, and you go show up and do your part and hope that they go, hey, we want you as a series regular. So
well, hey, if you need me, I'm here. So I actually worked on Dawsons Creek, and one of my good friends also worked on Dawsons Creek. So what was it like for you working on Dawsons Creek? Because I had never watched the show before being on it, and just was like, I don't want to be too nervous and be scared, because I was playing a 10th grader in my 20s.
Oh, wow.
I was actually a 10th grader. My bad. God. So what was it like for you? Because I played a cheerleader, so it was with Michelle Williams, and I can't remember everybody's names now, but it was a lot of fun because we were just cheering for the football team, playing around, and every once in a while being snobby to her, and then turned around when she became a member of the cheering squad. Then we started following her lead and became like assimilated after her, like the Stepford type of thing.
Yeah. So, that sounds like you had a few episodes on it.
Yeah, it was like 4 or 5. Not all, like, I started off as a featured extra, so not all of it comes on my SAG.
Sure.
I'm losing the word. Residuals check, so I don't remember exactly how many, but, and it's not listed on IMDb for the same reason.
I hear that.
For me, because just on to the next one, you don't always remember.
It's true. I mean, and that's what I think a lot of people don't realize when they watch, TV or entertainment in general, oh, you've done this and oh, you've done that and da-da-da. It's great. And it is fantastic. Every time I get cast in something, I feel nothing but gratitude for being able to do what I do. But when that episode's over, you're unemployed again, right?
The cycle continues. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. So
and you don't ever know if you're gonna actually make the film or TV show. You could end up on the edit on the floor.
That's right. But Dawsons Creek was great. I played a it wasn't Dawson. It was like a friend of his or something.
Casey, Dr. Jackson.
No, it was the actress is Sofia Coppola. Actually, is who played the part, but she was in rehab
Okay.
And
Oh,
this
Marilyn
was
Monroe.
like towards the end of the show,
Oh
towards
wait,
the end
that's
of
a
this
different movie. I worked
run.
with.
She was in rehab, and he came to meet her in rehab or something, and I was the group therapy
You're really
guy
good at
who
playing
was doing
doctors.
a group session. I had really short hair and a goatee at the time.
Now I noticed when I was looking through IMDb, like a lot of your roles were doctor or
Oh yeah, yeah.
you got that down pat. So your
Doctor, sheriff,
mom,
pastor.
oh, doctor, sheriff, and pastor.
Yeah, yeah.
That's nice. I mean, those are all really upstanding roles, and I'm sure your mom's like very proud.
That's right. That's right.
Embarrassed to tell her friends to go see your project.
I actually say I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV.
I just heard that line for the first time. A guy hit on LinkedIn sent me information about I can help you reach more clients and I'm like, I only play a doctor on TV.
Right.
And he just sent back laughing emojis. I was like,
yeah, that's funny.
Read the page before you spam.
I just passed actually last year a new threshold. I was cast as a judge on Bluff City Law.
Oh,
so I was like, okay, I guess I'm old enough to play a judge now.
my aunt's a judge, and she's in her voice. She's very young, so it can happen. You can get a point. And there was not that long ago, there was like a 20-year-old who became a judge or something.
Oh, wow.
Graduated really early, but I want to be very mindful of your time, and I do have a couple of fan questions that came through. So, speaking of, what is your favorite snack? Was one of them.
Favorite snack? Oh gosh, there's so many. If I had to, well, it's not really a snack. It's more of a dessert. A dessert. My wife makes this really mean flourless chocolate torte. That is just through the roof. But snack. What's a really good snack? I like those RX bars as a quick grab and go.
Okay.
Those are good.
All right. And then I have, do you have any famous or distant famous relatives?
Not that I know of. There is an Appalachian tale. So my family is from the mountains around the Asheville area. And the Ellers are from my grandmother's side. And I forget, I just went blank on his name. He's like my great granddad. Long story short, there was a extramarital affair with a maid, and they quietly sent the maid away to marry a doctor, and they moved north, and that child was Abraham Lincoln.
No.
And there's actually a news
I was
story.
not prepared for that plot twist.
Yeah. there's actually a news story kind of written about it, and it's all kind of Appalachian folklore and stuff. But and I doubt that Abraham Lincoln estate whatever come clean on that, but there was
that's pretty cool.
that's
I'm so glad they asked that question, because I would have never even thought to ask that question.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Well, okay, so then the last one is, if you had a choice, well, I don't know, this is really interesting. Would you rather live somewhere up in the woods with just your family, or somewhere more urban? And because I forgot to write it down, so I'm trying to remember what she said. But it was, right. Would you rather have country living with just your family, kind of isolated, which is what we're kind of dealing with now?
Yeah.
Or after this experience, you're like, I need people.
Well, I like space. I don't know that I'd want to. There have been times I love going to like Hanging Rock and areas like that, but when we go up in the mountains and kind of away from stuff, and I see houses kind of, out in these areas, right. I kind of go, what do they do out here? But I do love space, and I do love getting away to that. So, I mean, I guess if I had to answer, it would be, somewhere close to somewhere big, but far enough away where it doesn't feel like I'm that close.
Right. No, I get it, because they're saying a lot of people, like even in New York, they were trying to get away because it's just, I guess they felt even more claustrophobic knowing all
yeah.
that's going on.
Yeah.
But,
I went to, when I was out in LA, I lived in Playa del Rey.
okay.
And that I really liked because you had to leave when you kind of got off the highway. You had to go through these protected wetlands on a little 2-lane road to go into this little area where we lived, and that really felt like, it was right there in
Right.
LA, but it felt like you were, leaving the big city behind and, living in this kind of small town. It had a small town kind of vibe to it, which was great.
Oh, that's great. Now, just because we brought it up, everybody's kind of stuck home right now. What are you doing to stay busy and stay active and kind of getting prepared for the future? Because there's going to be, the floodgates are going to open because people
Yeah.
are going to need to make all this content that they had to stop.
Yeah,
Or they
absolutely.
were filming or going to start all or get ready to start.
Yeah, doing a combination of things. I've got a short that I wrote and directed in September last year that is sci-fi that I'm trying to get a first rough cut on. There was a lot of client work at the end of last year, so I haven't, had the time to really sit down and concentrate on, the cut. So I'm catching up on that, and it's, several special effects and stuff in there that I'm trying to figure out. And I just went blank on the question. Stuff at home during this time. So the other thing is a lot of yard work. So last year we bought a 1935 house in Greensboro, and it's got well over half an acre in town, which is like amazing.
Yeah.
And you could tell at one point that there was some thought put into the garden and the yard, but it had long since been forgotten. So one of my goals during this time is we're cutting back a bunch of brush and cutting down a bunch of trees and things and kind of just going through. And I am salvaging that timber, and I'm going to make a treehouse fort for my kids. So my kids are kind of in a sweet spot right now between they're 9 and 11. So
my daughter's 11.
yeah, so they've got like a 5-year window that they can enjoy that before they abandon it and run off, and I'll have to cut it down. Yeah. But if I build it right now, then, after they leave it alone, I'll turn it into an Airbnb or something. Who knows?
One thing I have to tell you that we did at my mom's house, because she's got like 11 acres, we put up a zip line. It would be really cool to get a zip line to
Yes.
the house if you have a way to do that. Just throwing that out.
Yes. We have been thinking about that.
All love it, and they probably would still love it up until teen years if you can.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a great point.
A lot of fun. Even my mom loves using it. So it's
okay.
Ages because it's at her house. She still gets to use it on a regular basis. We lived in an apartment at the time, so we needed somewhere to have my daughter's birthday. So we're like, hey, if we buy a playhouse and zip line, maybe we'll let us have a party there.
That's right.
So kind of forced it on her.
That's good.
In that sense, but it's been now. Are you doing any online trainings or watching any trainings as well to kind of prepare, or not so much?
There's a couple things. There's have you heard of I just totally went blank on the name.
That's okay. You can tap me later if you think of it. I was just curious if you were doing that.
I'll gosh, what's the Khan Academy.
Oh, okay.
Have you heard of Khan Academy?
I have.
Okay, so Khan Academy, they started out doing a lot of just basic math and tutorials and all kinds of stuff. Long story short, they've got they have and they're all free. Everything's free to study, but there is a 6 or 8 week course by the story writers at Pixar. That's on there. And you can go through and do this whole, this is how Pixar designs their stories. and it kind of walks you through the process of doing that. So I'm on like the, I don't know, third or fourth teaching of that, and kind of going through that a little bit. And yeah, just and as well, I also am available. I do through Triad Actors Co-op. I do some online coaching and stuff if people are interested at all in connecting with that.
Again, I'm making sure I type it right. Triad
Actors Co-op. The email would be info@actorscoop.com, and that's co-op.com.
It is 0 instead of a P.
Yeah.
Why is it not small? I didn't hit the shift button because it's right next to each other.
That's right.
Perfect. I'll look up their website and link it later. So I just want to make sure I don't forget all the different wonderful bits you've shared with us. Now, is there anything that you want to share before I let you go, and also give out your social media so people can stay in touch with you as well?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I always like to tell my students, I ran cross country in high school, and the arts is a crazy thing, right? If you study law, you go be a lawyer. If you study, medicine, you go be a doctor. If you study the arts, you go be a waiter, right? There's a disconnect. And my high school cross country coach, we always had this one route that we ran that it was called Running the Tower. It was a water tower. We had to run down the street, and about halfway there was this monster hill. It just a brutal hill.
Right.
And he just got tired of us belly aching. And so he drove out and met us at the hill this one day. And he said, okay, point to the hill. And we were like, it's right there. And he was like, no, the hill actually starts about a half mile back that way. Then there's this part, and once you get up this part, it actually goes for another quarter mile up there before it levels out. And if you can wrap your brain around the whole hill, then you can attack it better, and you're not getting worn out. And that, for some reason, that's always stuck with me. And for artists, I put that in the context of you have to understand you're going to have to do 5 times the work for less than half the paycheck from somebody that's in a quote unquote real job. Right. And and you're being an entrepreneur. And you've gotta learn stuff. As difficult as it is, I think artists go into artistic things because they don't want to hold down a 9 to 5. But yeah, I know, right? 100%. But you also have to realize that in being an entrepreneur, you've got to be able to tackle the business side of things. You've got to be able to balance your checkbook. You've got to be able to just follow up with invoices and find those creative ways. Find those creative ways that you're going to supplement your income. When you're on an episode and then hey, it's over, and it was good while that lasted, but now I'm unemployed again, right? So
yeah, and they say like being unemployed is one of those most stressful things, right there with death, divorce, and I can't remember what else. But when you're always kind of going through that, how do you kind of stay level going through all those different unemployment lows?
Yeah, that's part of why you have to do these other things. That's part of why I started getting into writing was, all right, because acting is a buyer's market, right? If everybody and their brother wants to do it, Apple is a seller's market because everybody, wants an iPhone, or maybe not everybody, no, I'm not, dogging out the Android users. All right. But, but they can charge pretty much what they want to for their phone because it's in demand. Actors are on the other side of that. there's a glut of actors on the market. Everybody and their brother says that, hey, I could do that. I want to do that. I've always wanted to do that. And so producers and directors can be as picky as they want to be,
right.
About who they choose. So if you're chosen, be grateful and don't have an attitude.
Right. It's funny. I don't know if you had the same experience, but sometimes like the newer they were in the industry, the worse they were to people. And like, cause I got much like with Burt Reynolds, I got to work with Diane Carroll on my first film.
Oh yeah.
I did on my own. And she was so, her and Ruby D. And so they wouldn't always use Teamsters to go from base camp to location. Like, oh no, I can walk it. And they were always so nice and just courteous with their time and willing to talk to others, as opposed to on some other things I worked with those younger people. They didn't even want to make eye contact once the scene was over. Or even talk like what?
I just
They're
can't.
not still working, from what I can tell.
Yeah, it's hard enough to make a movie or a TV show with people you like.
Right.
Right. Right. So don't be the on-set jerky person. Just don't. Because it really is, at the end of the day, a small world. And somebody knows somebody that knows somebody. That's how I connected with you. I knew somebody that you knew, and somehow, hey, yes. So, the person on set that is, bringing water bottles one day could be directing a feature next year.
Right.
You just don't know.
No. So, like, my father is a unit production manager, and so I started kind of behind the scenes helping out with him. And I can't tell you how many times people didn't know the connection. It would be rude to me, and I was a kid. And so like, later on, we got home. Hey, blah 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 was mean to me. Oh, was she? And then or him, and it was just a matter of a conversation. He wasn't just people.
Right.
He was just more or less like, oh, well, we'll have a conversation tomorrow. Like, and then from then on out, they were nice. But it was just one of those things where I saw from the production side first what it did to make, because you are there sometimes 10 to 17 hours working away from your family. You don't need that extra drama on set.
No.
I get it if you're playing opposites and maybe need that kind of tension to make it real for you, but we're all here doing a job. Might as well do it. Might as well have fun. You're making it happen. You're
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's pretty cool.
It has been so awesome to talk with you. I want to make sure you give out your handle for social media as well, because I don't think we did it earlier. No, we didn't.
Yeah, Instagram is R.Keith Harris.
Okay.
Is that right? Yeah, R.
Sure. Yeah.
I think it's just R.Keith Harris on Instagram and /Keith Harris on Facebook.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for being here. And I know you have a lot to do out on your honey-do list.
I know.
Hopefully you get it all done. I can't wait to see how the whole treehouse works out for you.
Yeah, I'll post some stuff about it. I'll post as I go.
Oh, great. Well, enjoy. Stay safe. Stay well. And
Will do.
on the other side, I can't wait.
It's been great.
Oh,
thank you so much, Camille.
It was my pleasure. I'm so glad you're able to do it. All right.
Take care.
Okay.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow, Mr. Walking Dead. Wasn't he so much fun? I feel like I learned a lot from him. I didn't realize, because this was planned really quickly, so I wasn't able to get his bio right away. So I didn't know about all his producing and production work as well. So it was nice to hear that side of it, and also like how they raise funds for all these different films here locally to get that information. But again, find R.Keith Harris on Instagram or just Keith Harris on Facebook. And of course, follow me at The Real Camille Cower on Instagram, or you're already here on my Facebook. Just go ahead and like it, subscribe. And you can also check out my YouTube channel. If you weren't here for the live, no problem. I'll have the replay also on YouTube. So share with your friends, share with everyone you know, so they can also get this great information. And maybe someone they know might be a guest next time. And it'll be all because of you. All right. Well, thanks again for tuning in. This is the E-Spot with Camille, now live on Facebook. Thanks again.